Have you ever considered why Jesus was a carpenter? Let's talk about it.
Alright, so my episode today is I want to ask a question to you, Jeremy and Tyler, and I want your feedback, and then I want to go in depth to what I'm thinking. So why do you think Jesus was a carpenter? What comes to your mind immediately?
Working with tools.
Working with tools.
Building houses, furniture.
Yeah. Let's add another.
Carpentry work.
Yeah. Let me add another baseline to it and get depth. So some of the research that I did for this episode, and I found out that in their day, a stonemason and a carpenter was kind of the same thing. He worked with stone and he worked with wood, but he was considered a carpenter. I mean, the Bible even says he was a carpenter.
Yeah.
It wasn't the highest paying job. I'm not for sure exactly how much they made. I couldn't really figure it out with the research that I did. Maybe if I got to go real in depth with it, I probably could, but I didn't with just base knowledge and getting prepared for this episode. The highest paying job of their day was a tax collector. So he didn't come from money.
Yeah.
He didn't put himself in money or anything like that. So why do y'all think that he became a carpenter?
Well, first of all, he was born into it.
Yeah.
It'd be like a family trade.
But he chose to be born in that family. You see what I'm saying? He still chose to be a carpenter.
Right.
What about you, Jeremy? What comes to your mind?
I think it all has to do with him coming to be like the everyday man.
Mm-hmm. It's a more reliability.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because Jesus came to experience the same feelings, thoughts, the emotions, everything that we deal with every day. He came to experience.
Right. Which I feel like coming and thinking about this topic today, there's a lot of answers to it. But the answer that I feel like is a good answer for it today, I want to let her kind of pinpoint in. So I want y'all both to imagine with me for a second, as it were, as Pastor says, as it were. Think of your life and your body and everything goes on as a house. Even the Bible says that our body is a temple.
Right.
So imagine a house, temple, whatever you want to use, a structure of some sorts. Okay? Imagine it when you were born into this earth, into this world. You're perfect. You're sinless. Things haven't happened. So pretty much it's a brand new house. The walls are fine. The foundation's good because you haven't built nothing on it. You got a good world. You don't know what it's like. No matter what family you come from, no matter who you come from, it's all good. Because you're a little kid, little boy, little girl. You don't understand anything. You don't know anything. You just living your best life. Mm. But as you begin to grow older and as you begin to go to 0 to 3 months to 6 months to 1 year old to 2 year old to a 10-year-old to 15-year-old, life begins to happen. And so your house is a shelter. So whatever is going on the outside let's use that as the world. The outside of your temple, your house is the world. But the inside is your spiritual man. Okay? As things begin to go along in life, we make mistakes. We sin. We do dumb things. And we begin to destroy our brand new house. We begin to break up walls, or maybe I did this and then stuff splattered all over the wall.
Yeah.
And it begins to stain the wall. And it begins to make a mess. And over time, you just sin. It begins to destroy. It becomes mold. It becomes decay. It just begins to destroy your house. It begins to break down every wall and just make it look nasty. And then the other hand, that can be a lot of things when it comes to sin. You do maybe anger, bitterness, you get mad, you accidentally punch a hole in the wall. Or you're dealing with on inner things where you realize your foundation wasn't as good as you thought it was. There's a scripture in the Bible, you built your foundation on sand, not on the rock.
Right.
So then your foundation begins to crack. So if your foundation's cracking, your wall's cracking, and then your roof begins to mess up. So when the windows and the roof begins to make mistake or begin to break and decay, that means whatever's on the outside begins to come in. And that begins an environment, I would say, where you put yourself in the environment. So if you're around people that are sinning, then people begin to hurt you. People can hurt you too. People can break into your heart and play with your feelings on the inside to where somebody run in and just destroy things. And then the enemy can come in like a flood and take your joy and your peace and all of these things and leave you ransacked. and then it really messes up your house.
Yeah.
And then if your roof begins to leak, then you're not sustained anymore. You begin to take in all the feels and all the things that come in and just punch you in the face and begins to just flood your house. And then you got mold, and you got water damage, you got hail damage, you got wind damage, you got termites. Everything just begins to unfold, and that can be so personal to all of us, because there's all things we all mess with or have struggled with. There's different sins we've all done. There's all kind of things that come in and destroy ourselves and destroy our house, using that as an example. And we can get depressed about it, and it just becomes really bad, because if you let it sit there for so long, then it just begins to mold up, and then it begins to really decay.
Right.
And so this brand new house, your spirit and your soul is just left and ransacked because of things I've done, because things people have done to me, the way the life has happened, the way the world has treated me, what's happened in the world. My environment has destroyed my house, has destroyed the inner being inside, the spiritual man or woman, my temple, using it as all example. And we all can identify in that in some way, whether sin, outside, whatever you want to use as this example today. And when things happen, when we finally get to the point of what do you do when your house messed up, or you got to call somebody, me and you, Jeremy, we call landlord. We begin to look who can fix this, who can come through and completely remodel. That's where I think y'all are catching on where my thoughts going today. So let's say Sister Sally. We're gonna make up an imaginary person. This person does not exist.
Somewhere she does.
Maybe for Sally, I don't know you. Maybe I'm talking about her life. I don't know. Let's say Sally is a woman that went through, or let's just say Sally. Let me use her example. She's went through life. She's had a hard life, and it's just life hasn't been good to her. Life hasn't ended well for her. Things have begun to leak and seep in, and her foundation's destroyed, and all that. And let's say Sister Sally, before she became Sister Sally, started going to church. She heard, and she'd been going to church, and she didn't really know much, but she heard about this man named Jesus. She heard about God. She heard about all the things that he could do. She begins to hear about all these things, and we all do it whenever, or me and Jeremy, we don't have to worry about it because we have a landlord. But Tyler, for you, if something breaks in your house or something goes wrong and you have to begin to look for somebody to fix it, and then when it gets kind of cramped. Like, I don't want to spend that much money and all this kind of stuff. But Sister Sally heard about this man named Jesus, and she went down one morning. She prayed at the altar, and she kind of talked to Jesus or God. Let's say, using an example, well, I don't really know who you are, but I would like to know you, and for your help. And then Sister Sally one day got a knock on the door. If that picked up, let's say use that for example. Did it pick up, or was it really loud?
That picked up. Yeah.
So let's use that example. And she let Jesus in, and Jesus, she called upon him. She called him and said, help me. And he knocked on the door, and she answered. And she began to tell Jesus about herself. Tell Jesus about all the things she went through and all the things that's happened to her and all this. But, Jesus I imagine Jesus kind of sitting there, kind of just listening. He's got his carpenter pen, that's how you say it, and his yellow notepad. He's just kind of looking around, as it were. This is not actually how it works. I'm just using this example. Just kind of looking around, and all right. And Sister Sally goes, well, just, come follow me. And they go through room by room by room by room. She goes to the kitchen. It's all messed up from fights and fussing and world problems. And she goes and she shows them her roof, and about all the seepage that happens, and about all the things on her roof that are messed up. All the shingles are gone. The attic is flooded over the years of just untamed maintenance, and it just got out of hand. It just poured on her. And then there's the sin and all the things, and she's just walking around and she's showing all the stuff that's face layered, that's just you can see on your eye. But when she looks around and begins to think about it, she doesn't want to open up the walls and show Jesus all the scars. She doesn't want to open up and show God all the things that are deep down that you can't see. When you go to the structure, when you go to the core of it, she doesn't want to show him that.
Right.
And it becomes uncomfortable to her. It becomes uncomfortable to her to pull back the drywall, to break the board and show her to show Jesus all the junk, all the sin, all the problems, all of the mess. It becomes uncomfortable. And it becomes a mess, and it makes her feel bad, and it makes her upset. And, it's not just doing this at one part of the house. It's going through your whole life, your whole life, from the time you were born to whatever time you are now. She's taking him to every spot, because she's got to show him, she's got to get a price of what it is and all that. And so at the end of it, after pouring her heart out, after showing God in the flesh all the things that are wrong and all of the things that's happened to her, hurt. People hurting her hurting herself, the face layer problems, the core problems, and then the foundational problems, and what she takes in problems. It's just a big mess.
Yeah.
And Sister Sally, I think how I imagine this today, she just kind of walks up after she went through the whole house and showed Jesus all the problems, showed Jesus all the mess, all the sin, all the brokenness, all the damage. And they end up sitting maybe in the living room, sitting on the couch. And, there's a table in front of them, and Jesus is sitting on the other side of the couch, on the other side of the room, and she's sitting on the other side of the couch, and she's talking to God, and she's talking to Jesus, or she's talking to God in flesh. And she's sitting there, and she's just looking at it, and he's been writing down on his notepad, as it were. And she looks at him, and she says, "Well, how much? What's going to be? How much do I have to fix?" And I think Jesus kind of looks at her, and in my words, and using it as an example, I think he's got a little smile on his face, kind of got a little grin on his face, and he's happy. And he's talking to her, and he just kind of says, "Well, it's not as bad as you think it is." And he looks at her, and she says, "Well, how much will it cost me?" And I think Jesus kind of looks at her, and I think that's where the real smile on her face really, or a smile on his face really kicks in. Because I think he looks at her, and he goes, "You ain't got to pay nothing. It's free." That's the biggest blessing about this. It's all free. And I think he stretches out his hands, and he puts the Bible in the living room table. And when he puts it on the table, you can see the nail scar on his hand. And I think he kind of leans back in the couch or the chair, and he says, "Well, you see, all of it can be paid for. It's free to you. You don't have to worry about what you have to do. I can do this all for free if you let me." And I think she kind of leans back in her chair, and she's like, "What in the world do you mean it's free?" And she begins to tell Jesus all her problems. All the walls are destroyed, and this is broken, and the roof is messed up. The roof's at least $20,000. My foundation's destroyed. My world is a mess. What's happened on the outside has infected me on the inside. What's happened in my life, I have ruined the stuff on the inside. I didn't take care of this. I made a mess over here in the corner over here. And it's like I said, it's just one big mess. And he sits there and he says, "Oh, I understand you. I get what you're saying, as it were. But open up that book right there I gave you. Let's go to Noah and the ark. Look what I did for him. Look where I saved him from it. I saved him from a flood."
Yeah.
And he goes to David. David's one of, if not the most humanity person in the Bible that we see, that is outlined. Look at all the highs and lows. Look at all the mess he made. Look at all the things he's done. Go to Apostle Paul. He killed people, but yet still became a mighty preacher.
Yeah.
Look at the people, children of Israel. They made mistakes, came back to God, had great victories, and then bailed on them again.
Yeah.
Continuously. Think of Samson. He was a mighty man, but he made a mess of his house. He let the wrong things in and fell to it. But at the end of the day he died, God honored him.
Yeah.
Think of all the people in the Bible, and God, and Jesus is just telling her, "Sister Sally, I can do all these things." Turn to where it talks about the rock, building your house on a rock and not the sandy shore. I can fix the foundation. I can fix the walls. I can fix the roof. I can fix all of these things. And then it gets to the death, burial, and resurrection. And he's just smiling there. And she's just blown away, because how in the world could somebody do all this for everybody else and do this for me? And he smiles, and he begins to explain to her why it's free. Why she doesn't have to pay for anything. Why she doesn't have to just give her life away, take out a loan or anything like that. He tells her about how he died for her sin. He took on that sin of everybody in the world that was on the earth in that day and that was born after that day 2,000 years ago. And he just, as he's telling her this, I think she begins to feel stuff in her heart and feel stuff in her mind, and she begins to believe it. She begins to believe the word of God. And on the same note, after that, he begins to just really work on her. She got her first original contact with Jesus. She continuously keep going to church, so she learned more about God and him robing himself in the flesh and dying for our sins. And when Sister Sally became Sister Sally, she began to let Jesus work. He began to working on the roof to where anything else wouldn't get damaged. Then she stopped. Everything in her world stopped just constantly messing with her. He began to replace the windows before he did anything, where all the intake of the world and all the intake of the junk would stop it.
Yeah.
And then he went to the I say that, I kind of went ahead of myself. He started with the foundation. He fixed the foundation. She began to build on her foundation on him, on the rock, and then he fixed the foundation. And he went from the foundation up. He started with the roof, and then went through all the walls. But it amazed Sister Sally, because he did it little by little. He didn't just snap his fingers. Yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been awesome. But he really began to work on Sister Sally's house.
Renovation takes time.
Yep, renovation takes time. And he began to, till it began to do so much. And then she woke up one day, 3 or 4 years later, and she walked in the kitchen, out of her bedroom one morning. She just walked around and looked. And then her parents, or Sister Sally's parents came by one day. And they've been hearing about, how she'd been living for God. And when they walked in, it was unrecognizable. The house that once was a sin pit, the house that was just a mess, that was foreclosed in a lot of people's eyes. She began to tell her parents about the Carpenter Jesus that came in and fixed her life like nobody ever could. That picked up her pieces off the ground and molded them and turned them into something so more beautiful. The house that she was born in, the house that embodies her, is her spiritual self. And that's kind of the point that I want to make, and that we can run our base layer, our foundation today, is that all of that represents you. Your house represents you. What you let in and out represents the outside world, and the inward is what you can do. And it begins to it can be a mess. But like Sister Sally, she had those messes, but she met the man named Jesus, and he fixed it all.
Yeah.
So I think that's, in my mind, I feel like that's why Jesus chose to be a carpenter, because he worked with wood. He worked with wood to fix walls, to repaint, and then going into research, he was considered a quote-unquote stonemason too.
Yeah.
What do you have to build a foundation? Rock.
Yeah.
You have to have stone. You have to have some kind of material that is hard, that just doesn't move. That is what God is.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He builds. If we build our foundation on him, he can fix it.
Well, the Bible refers to him as the chief cornerstone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stone that they build off of. That's in building today. That would be this is square. This is a perfect 90-degree angle. We're going to go off of this.
Right.
And that Jesus is the chief cornerstone,
right,
or it should be in your life. And whenever you get born again, then you have to build that foundation. It doesn't just come overnight. You have to build a foundation.
So you added there. So I think to kind of collude my thought, and we can go off from here, and after that y'all can add what y'all want to add into it. I think why Jesus chose to be a carpenter was to prove to mortal men that he can fix it.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, if I'm going to a world to help save people, and he talks about fishermen so much, why not become a fisherman? Why not become a tax collector? Now, yes, they would have been deeply looked down upon for being that, but he would have had the money to do his needs.
As you say that, this thought just came to my mind. Jesus was a carpenter, not a fisherman. So how did he tell Peter, "Hey, I'm going to make you fishers of men"?
That's exactly that's the same lines I was thinking of. Because why? If it was the whole point, because like I said, in his ministry, a lot was about going fishing in a way,
right?
Fishing for lost souls, fishing for people they're out there dying in their sin, and helping them. So that's the foundation that I wanted to give today, and we can given it what y'all think and what your thoughts are that immediately came to your mind when you were.
Well, a couple of things that come to my mind is Ezekiel 36 and 26. I had to Google it real quick, but it says that a new heart will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh.
Yeah.
So one there, he talks about taking out the stony heart, but also you have to keep in mind Jesus came in fleshly form to be like us, to be, like I said earlier, to be more or less, quote unquote, a common man, because he wanted to fulfill prophecy, and it talked about him being in all points tempted and all points tested as we are,
right?
But yet without sin. So, and part of that is, in order to work with stone, with wood, all of that, you've got to have patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that's part of it.
Yeah. I didn't think about the patience part, but yeah, you're right. I mean, that goes along. They
didn't have power tools back then.
Right.
It was a chisel and a hammer.
And it kind of goes, what you said, Jeremy, ties into where I said it took over. It didn't take one night. It was a day by day by day by day. It was a renovation, like you said, that just it may have even took a couple of years. But it happened. She let him continue his work. And, kind of Agdar went into it a little bit, but to fix the foundation, he had to tear apart so much to get behind that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of symbolic to us, because when we come to God, we don't want to let him in everything. I'll give you a little bit, but I won't give you everything. Oh, well, God, you've took me this far, and I'm going to stay, like kind of how he kind of talked about today, Pastor, about ankle deep. I'll stay ankle deep for so long, and then you can take me further. But it's the willing part. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I had a thought, and it just disappeared. It just left me that quick. But Jesus is also here. It just popped back up. He's a builder of our faith.
Right.
So you have to keep that in mind as well. That's just another, I guess you could say, way to look at it. He came and was a carpenter, and all of cause everything about his life works together towards the end result.
Right.
He was very and is very intentional in each and every one of our lives.
Yeah.
Like my mind goes to the woman at the well.
Yeah.
Here he was a Jew, and she was a Samaritan. They were not supposed to have anything to do with each other.
Right.
But he began to first build that relationship with her, build that trust.
Right.
Before he sprang it on her. Look, I'm who you're looking for, without saying I'm who you're looking for.
Yeah. I'm that guy. I think the main kind of points that I really wanted to highlight today, and my thought was that he can do everything.
Yeah.
And that no matter how bad the situation is and how bad the foundation or the roof or the things are that are coming in, he can do it. He can do it over time. Sometimes he can snap his fingers and it all go perfect. But, and kind of another thought too is, I think he likes working with his hands. Whereas even when talking about the potter's wheel.
Yeah.
When you get put on the potter's wheel, it's his hands that mold you.
True.
I think another reason why I think Jesus became or chose to be a carpenter, I think he liked working with his hands too. And then that can go back all the way back to Genesis. He made man in his image.
Yeah.
He put Adam to sleep.
He formed Adam from the dust.
He put Adam to sleep and took a rib out of him and made Eve. I don't think he was just hovering over him using like his looking all magical and all of that.
Yeah.
I feel like
he was hands on.
Yeah, hands on.
That's pretty good there.
Yeah. It was even though it was a kind of a shorter and I did most of the talking. But
that's good. I was ready to call altar call. Musicians come.
Yeah, if I get called to speak about any topic, that will be my next topic I use at church. So I'll probably be more in depth, maybe, I don't know. But
yeah, that was good though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But the main thing that I want to highlight is that he can do it all, and that he can do everything, and that if you let him do it, and how important it is that I use Sister Sally as a reference. She went to church and she began to hear about him, and then she let him in. Mm. She let him in and began to talk to him. And, maybe it was a day by day thing. She was letting him in. Maybe one day they came to the kitchen first. Maybe one day he just looked at the roof. Maybe one day he looked at the foundation. Maybe it didn't happen all at one meeting. But I feel, and using that as an example as I did, I feel like as I used it, he put the Bible on the table and began to tell her, I feel like the revelation of how much he can do and what he can do happened at once.
Right.
Of this man, that is God, robed himself in flesh, can do everything. That can fix everything. And it's free. Because he paid the price on Calvary.
Right.
That's the main thing I wanted to get clear out today.
That's a good thought there.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You got anything, Jeremy?
Nope. For once, I don't have much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Yeah.
And that's a good thought.
Yeah. Because it's very... I know I told y'all about it a week or two ago, and I could tell when I first told y'all, I'm like, what in the world? But when I first thought of the thought of why was Jesus was a carpenter, I was like, what? And then the more I begin to piece it together, the more I felt like I feel like I have an actual valid answer to why Jesus became a carpenter.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I try sometimes.
All right. Well, that wraps today's episode up. We have our Instagram.
Yep.
We have Facebook. I think we have TikTok now.
Yes,
or
we do.
Tick, however you say
but
it.
that is just.
I'm not on that.
We have it for now. Potential that we may get rid of it.
So,
depends.
We're going to see how that works out. But,
yeah.
Find us on. Well, if you already listened to us on Apple Podcasts, then you already know.
Apple Podcasts.
But we're on Apple. We're on YouTube.
Yep. One day we're going to be on Spotify.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Is it Spotify?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why.
So one day we'll be there.
One day.
Probably soon. So for those people that want to listen on Spotify. And then you have the Podbean app.
Yeah.
So we're doing this on Podbean.
Yeah.
So you have that. Have access to all the episodes there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, follow us. Give us feedback. Go look at our reels. We're going to start making random reels.
Yeah. Leave a comment. We're going to do reels. Let us know how you like it. Let us know if there's anything you want us to bring up.
Yeah.
I mean, we're interested in hearing from you, seeing how it's going.
Yes.
So, well, we hope from the three of us, I'll speak for the other two. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful day. And support your church, support your pastor.
All right.
Get in the Word, get in prayer.
Yeah.
And just be a good Christian.
One thing, if I can add then, and we're wrapping it up. One thing that I didn't really get to, but I got touched on the end. After God moves on you, don't be afraid to tell people.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to show people the new you, the people that are going to think of all the bad. Don't be afraid not to show them the good that you're going on, where you're changing from.
Yeah.
To add that little nugget at the end.
Yeah, that's good. That's important too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.